Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Karin Previon. Now in this video I'm going to be showing you my drift build for the car with all of the customization options you need on it to get it drifting, and as well as that I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a guide slash review, so anybody who's trying to use this car for drifting has a bit of an easier time doing so, knowing the car's strengths and weaknesses, and as well for anyone who hasn't bought the car yet and is considering it, can maybe get a good idea of if they want to buy it or not, and if they think it's a good purchase. Now all of that being said, if you do enjoy today's video or find it helpful at all, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. And as well, if you're interested in drifting, car meets, or car culture in general, I'd highly recommend you go ahead and join my Discord server, which will be linked down below. But with all of that being said, let's get into it. First things first, let's get into the build. Now I'm going to begin with the performance upgrades you want to go ahead and make sure this thing can drift, and then after I've covered those I'll go into the more cosmetic side of things. So first things first, as usual we're going to be touching on those brakes. I recommend going ahead and leaving them stuck. There's no real benefit to upgrading them, and if you're going to be using them to adjust your drift, it's just going to kill it off and slow it down. There's no need. Moving on to the engine. As with any typical tune, you want to go ahead and make sure that your EMS level is 4 or as much as you can have it. More power means more wheel spin, and it makes the drifts a lot easier to pull off. Now moving on to spoilers, I'm going to recommend for this car you don't include one. It's really personal preference. I think it's a bit too grippy when you have a spoiler equipped. I don't really like how it handles with that. Now suspension plays a big factor for this car in particular. I would recommend you go ahead and use either the lowered or the street suspension. Personally, I prefer the lowered suspension, and the way that these new tuners cars work is that the lower the car goes, the more grippy it will tend to be. But the thing I've noticed with this car as well is that with that additional camber that you get from the lower angles, the steering angle is much worse and it's harder to drift. Now touching on the transmission really quick and the turbo, you want to upgrade both of these to the maximum level possible. Once again, extra performance is going to aid you massively for drifting. Then as we go on to the tire enhancements, you're going to want to equip those low grip tires to go ahead and kill the traction on this car, and so you can get it sliding super easily. So now let's move on to the more cosmetic side of the build. Now first things first, on armor I went ahead and put that to the maximum possible, left that on 100. For the front bumper, left it stock. I'm not the greatest fan of these aftermarket looking bumpers. I don't know, they're just not for me, so I just left it as is. On the rear end, again left it stock. Didn't really think the diffuser fit very well. On the engine block, we went with the primary ridged V8 engine. I don't know why Rockstar thinks the SC400 should be LS swapped, but I don't know, it's their game, they're nuts. Rail covers went with the stock ones, and the strut brace I went with the secondary tri-strut brace right there. For the air filter I used the plastic upper intake manifold, and for the exhaust I went ahead and used those dual exhausts right there. Kinda like them. Moving on to the fenders, I wasn't really feeling the wide body, so I went ahead and left those nice and stock. And then for the intercooler, I went ahead and left that stock as well. No intercooler on that option. I was debating for a little bit whether to go with the Neo light glass or just the stock ones, but I left them as is. I wanted to keep the build kind of tasteful, kind of low-key looking. I didn't want to go super nuts with the exterior, but that doesn't take away from the car too much. Now on hoods, the fully vented street hood is the option I went with. I'm quite a fan of it. I think it looks quite nice. Moving on to the interior though, left the dash nice and stock. Again, I didn't want it to be look too track ready. I wanted it to kind of be blend, like 50-50, best of both kind of thing. Stock dials, but went with the light wave weave panels for the door. Went with some sports seats in there, nice bucket seats, and then went with the Sprint lightweight steering wheel. For the roll cage, went with the street half cage in the back right there. stock headlights, no neon kit to speak of. And then for the livery, I went with the Power Metal Drift Team one. Now, there are going to be better liveries for this car. They're all unreleased. I've seen some of them about. At the minute, I can't be bothered to do the merge to unlock it. It's effort, so I'll just wait for it to come out. But yeah, this was what I thought was the best out of the liveries to fit with the build. I quite like it, but I can't wait for the new ones to come out too. Stock mirrors though, and the plate, I ended up going with the blue and white number 3s. I just changed it real quick, but went with my custom sideways plate I use on quite a few of my drift cars. For the primary color, went with that ice white, and then for the secondary, just classic black, nice and clean, nice and simple. No pearlescent since they're classic colors. Went with the dark steel trim, white accent color for the wheels and the dials. No chrome balloon, no roof scoop. Went with the race side skirts, and then no splitter on this one. I reckon they're just a bit big. Not a fan of the ones with the canards either. No spoiler, of course, to help with the drift build, but I will say there are a few quite nice looking spoiler options if you want to go for something a little more crazy. You need a bit more grip, you reckon. Some of these ones are pretty nice. Again, no sun strip, keeping this one really, you know, kind of low-key. And then touching on the wheels, I went with the high-end number 11s, the Cheetah RR rims. I figured for this car I'd try something a little bit different, and I kind of like how this one turned out. No custom rims or tire enhancements, that kind of thing, tire lettering, but the color of the wheels are just frost white. And then the window tint is simply white smoke, light smoke. But yeah, that is pretty much the drift build in its entirety. So let me know what your thoughts are on that down below. It's a little more simplistic than some of my typical stuff, but I reckon it looks pretty nice as is. But yeah, I'd love to hear your opinions on it down below. Share your thoughts, what you think of the car in general. But let's go ahead and get into the guide and review and let you know how this thing really is for drifting. So the Previon, is it worth it? Is it any good at drifting? And what can I do to go ahead and get this thing to drift easier? Now, this car, I'm going to say straight away, can drift. It is a capable drift car. It's not terrible by any means, but at that, I wouldn't say it's particularly anywhere near the best either. It's sort of middle of the road. It's kind of average, if you get what I mean. The handling does not help this car too much. It's very particular about the way it wants to be driven, and it's a little bit unforgiving. It isn't like the most challenging thing ever. Like, it's still a lot easier to handle than, let's say, like the ZR350 and that. But it will be a bit of a step up from something like the Futo GTX, that kind of thing. This car, in my opinion, is better suited for low to medium speed drifting. You know, some like inner city stuff, you'll be fine. But if you go ahead and try some more ambitious stuff, you know, some higher speed drifting, some more like crazy entries, this might not be the best car for that. Personally, I don't think it really has the ability to do those kinds of things very well. There are, like, the way I'd put it is there are better options out there for that sort of stuff. But, you know, for a more low-key kind of drifting, like just generic street drifting, that kind of thing, parking lots, parking garages, all of that, like I'm doing right here, you should be completely fine. Some things to keep in mind though are that as I said, the handling is a little bit inconsistent. It's a little bit finicky. So sometimes it's gonna feel like it's understeering, and then like 2 seconds later it's gonna oversteer like crazy and take you by surprise. It's very particular. I'd say if you need to make sure with this car you've got decent practice with counter steering and throttle control, as you know, not enough throttle, the corner's just not gonna really, you're not gonna take the corner too well, but too much as you exit or enter it, and the car's just gonna spin out. It's one of those cars that you have to kind of like try it for yourself, and you have to like find that sweet spot for a little bit of everything. So you have to kind of find the spot where, okay, I need to counter steer this much to do it. I can't really explain in words how that is. It's a lot of just practice and getting a feel for it for yourself. But you know, you need to just try and find that sweet spot for how to counter steer it, how to give it a bit more throttle, as it is a bit less forgiving than some of the other cars available. But by no means is it a bad drift car. It's very capable, as I said. It's pretty good for those lower speeds if you're trying to drift. But if you're newer and you're looking for a brand new drift car, I wouldn't exactly direct you this way. I wouldn't say that this is particularly the best place to start. There are other options out there, as I said. But if you have this car already and are interested in seeing if it's able to be drifted well, or you know, if you could make a good drift tune out of it, you certainly can. This car can drift decently well. It is pretty nice. I wouldn't really fault it for that. It's just a little bit more challenging than some of the other cars available. But hopefully that was helpful, and thank you very much for your time. So yeah, just make sure to, you know, lock down those essential skills, practice with this car, and you'll find it absolutely fine. You know, 1 minute it will be kind of like feeling effortless, and the next it might be a bit more challenging, but you know, once you give it a bit of time, a bit of practice, this thing will be very, very nice for you. But yeah, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for watching the video. If you did enjoy, a like and a sub would be greatly appreciated. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you all very much, and have a wonderful day.